Hey, so I've got a new slate, a new series of videos that I want to do here. Um, it's all going to be about the afterlife in some way, shape, or form. And I think what I want to do is first ghosts, then heaven, then hell, and then finally to sort of tie them all together. Even though it is a sort of running thread throughout all of them, it's going to be the soul and whether or not the mind can exist outside of, you know, the physical housing, the brain. We've never seen it. We've never seen a mind which can exist outside or independent of a physical brain. So that's going to be a discussion for the last video. But I thought for these 3 videos, or maybe 4 videos, if I decide to include reincarnation as one of them, let's just have fun with it and eventually get to the sort of overarching issue of souls, which you need for all of this to make sense. But let's just have some fun first, and first on the agenda, or first on the list, is going to be ghosts. I don't believe in ghosts. I don't believe in the supernatural, so therefore ghosts kind of go in with that. And it's kind of funny because there are quite a few ghost videos on YouTube. It's an entire genre here. And it's funny that I'm also talking about this well after Halloween. This would have been a great video for Halloween, but I hadn't thought of it yet. Or hadn't thought to make a video on it yet. Anyways, ghosts. Sort of the thing which all of these videos try to prove to be the case, or sort of try to exemplify, like, hey, look, they're real, here's an example of it. And again, it's kind of funny because I see all of the videos which exist on YouTube that have to do with ghosts. I kind of see them all as sort of amateur-made horror movies, short horror movies. At least that's how I view them, and for me, that makes them a lot of fun. Because sometimes, sure, there are cases where people will go out of their way to make it look like there's a ghost. But sometimes it will happen where someone just attributes some happening, some occurrence that they can't explain, and immediately attribute it to a ghost, or to phantom, or some other supernatural being which exists outside of a physical body, non-corporeal, that sort of thing, transparent. All of the usual things that you think about when you think about ghosts. Anyways, yeah. A lot of times I feel like it's really just a case of you may be attributing something which may very well be a result of natural occurrences that maybe a person may not understand, and attributing them to, the supernatural right away. Like, oh, a ghost did it. Something falls off the shelf. A ghost did it. Instead of, maybe it wasn't really there well placed to begin with and was going to fall inevitably. So yeah, you can kind of tell. For me, ghost videos fall into one of 2 categories. It's either faked or, it's a person who's being genuine, but who may be jumping the gun and immediately attributing it to a ghost. Because you see a lot of videos where, like, oh, you see like this form moving through the video, but it may very well be, the shadow or reflection of a person who's farther away or in another room that you can't see, and lights, even dust in the air, shadows, especially when you're looking at this in a dark place, which most of the people in these ghost videos are. They can play tricks on you. Like, I've seen ghost videos where they're like, look, there's clearly a ghost in the reflection, when actually it's just sort of the smudging and the dirt and the dust on the mirror or on the window, which makes it look like a figure is there, but it's not. That sort of thing, so like, just tricks of the eye, optical illusions, that sort of thing. You also have like videos where they see a person, or they swear they see a person, and they disappear into a place where they couldn't possibly go. That, you know, that could either be fake, or it could very well be that an actual person is there, like a homeless person, or maybe someone who's trying to hide, maybe someone who's up to no good, that sort of thing. Or even other ghost adventurers, or you know, ghost debunkers or whatever. I've seen it happen to people, like in the case of, I think his handle is like, this is Dan Bell, where was he was someone else's ghost. He was he was inside of an abandoned location, and people saw him, or saw the figure of him in a sort of vague sense, and they thought that, you know, they had seen something supernatural, when it was in fact just another person who was also looking into the supernatural. So there's all kinds of ways in which, you know, you could think you're seeing a ghost, but you aren't. And I know, like, this whole video is just going to sound like I'm discounting the entire idea of ghosts out of hand. And, like, if you can provide an example of something that could only occur if it was the result of the supernatural of ghosts, then sure. But a lot of these videos end up being very questionable and vague, and, you know, there's always the potential that whatever you're seeing in the video could be attributed to something else that's perfectly natural, or just someone messing with somebody else, or the person who's taking the video messing with the viewer, you know, any of us. So yeah. And then, yeah, this is again, this is going to run through all of these videos either way, but on top of demonstrating an occurrence to be the result of ghosts, or, you know, whatever non-living, non-corporeal entity you want to attach it to, on top of attributing an occurrence to one of those non-corporeal, non-living beings, you also kind of need to show that a being can exist without a corporeal form, which kind of goes into what I'll talk about at the end of this series about, you know, the soul, and how the mind, which I imagine is, for a person who believes in the soul, a part of the, you know, being which is the soul, that it has to be able to exist outside of a, you know, physical functioning brain, or that the self can exist outside of our physical, you know, our physical being, our physical sort of encasing, or this fleshy enclosure which we exist in. But yeah, so there are those issues. And while I do find like these videos really fun to watch, because, you know, they're kind of a thriller, they're you know, like I said, they're amateur made horror movies, which in some way can be even scarier because you don't know what to expect. Sure, a lot of the videos have a lot of the same things going on, but horror movies are so, how do I say it? Horror movies these days are so formulaic that these videos are kind of refreshing, because it's a loose formula, at least in these ghost videos. That's part of why I like Hereditary, or movies like that, which sort of try to break the monotony of all of these different ghost movies or horror movies. They try to like step away from it and do something at least a little bit different. I love films like that. Films that try to do something outside of the norm and actually scare you. I haven't actually been scared by a horror movie in so long. But yeah, and so like in the case of like these ghost videos, I've seen ones, especially one recently with this guy in, I think, Mexico, who has like a ghost haunting his like piñata, or like sort of party store, and like this thing that appears from like between a bunch of piñatas, and like it looks scary as hell. Yeah, even just to think about, but like the image itself is like terrifying. But like I'm not going to jump the gun and say, like, oh, that's the definite supernatural being he's got, roaming around inside of his store. It could easily be faked. I'm not going to say that it is fake because I don't know 100%. But my inkling and my inclination is to say that, yeah, there's a very good chance it's probably just faked. Or it could even be that he has someone, maybe, homeless or just mentally ill, who, or maybe someone who's up to something nefarious, who's roaming around in his store that he hasn't sort of caught on to yet or figured out yet, or just hasn't gathered the information to sort of prove it, or caught them in the act, all those different things, but also, like, I think it's kind of convenient how the videos progress, that they have there seems to be sort of a running story with these videos, and you see that in quite a few channels that supposedly have these sort of true story ghosts videos, if you know what I mean. Anyways, so yeah, the skeptic in me doesn't want to believe them out of hand. I don't want to completely disregard the idea of ghosts, because maybe there's a possibility that something like a ghost could exist, or a ghost could exist, but we don't really have any good reason for believing that right now. And that's including with all of the videos that supposedly prove ghosts. Yes, and I see it a lot of times where they'll say, like, oh, this has been checked, or this has been verified, that this couldn't have happened because of X, Y, and Z, or photo effect, or because there was no one around. I feel like that them trying to sort of sell it as real and legit sort of makes me question it even more. But also, there can always be a variable that maybe you just didn't consider, because maybe you didn't think about it at the time, like how I didn't think about making a ghost video on Halloween. And then there's this sort of I mean, it's interesting too, because you have even different types of ghosts. Ghosts who repeat the same thing over and over, or ghosts who are, very much aware of what they're doing. Good ghosts, bad ghosts, ones that mean you harm, ones that want to help you, all that sort of thing. There's a whole mythology on ghosts, which kind of goes to my whole thing about the belief in ghosts just kind of sort of being an extension of the belief in the supernatural and the afterlife, that sort of thing. The fact that there's an entire mythology around these things sort of, for me, points to that idea that it is just another form of, religious belief, I guess you could say, or just superstitious or supernatural belief. It's not theism because it's not directly, it's not directly having to do with the existence of a god, but it does have to do with the supernatural, in which God and all those other things would fall under. I've never experienced a ghost sighting myself. I've never seen a ghost. I've never experienced anything that I attribute to a ghost personally. If eventually I experience something that could be said to be a ghost, my mind would more likely attribute it to something natural, a person, a trick of the light, optical illusions, foul play, any number of things, but I'm not likely to attribute it to a ghost offhand. I don't want to completely disregard the idea, but just like with God, I have, I'm agnostic, atheist, I don't believe in a God, but I won't say with 100% certainty that there is no God, because I don't believe that you can really know that. I'll treat ghosts the same way. I really don't believe in them, but sure, let's leave open the possibility that they are things which exist. Okay. But these ghost videos aren't really proof of that, because any number of them could be, like I said, either faked or just misinterpreting what's going on. you know, to kind of put it under that bubble, under that umbrella. But I do still love horror movies and ghost videos. Even if I don't believe in the afterlife or the supernatural or any of those sort of things, it's still enjoyable. You know, the mysterious, the dark, the horrifying. I mean, like I said earlier, I've yet to see a horror movie that actually scares me, and I want to be scared by a horror movie. If I were to see a movie that were to like make me not want to sleep for several nights, that's a good horror movie. Terrify me. Make me wish I had never watched it, but in a good way. So, you know, I can appreciate the whole ghost idea, but I just don't really believe in it myself. And that's sort of it. I kind of knew that this ghost video was going to be short, even after I cut it down from what it is now. So yeah, this will be sort of the introductory video to the whole Afterlife series that I'm going to do, hopefully. With Ghost, Heaven, Hell, Reincarnation, and the Soul, that'll be 5. That'll be 5. More than the series I did on God, but I can always add to these series. I mean, I added a new one to the Void series recently, so eventually I hope to sort of include these video series into just playlists, and that will make sort of going through them much easier once I've accumulated too many to really keep track of them. So, for now, no, but eventually probably, yeah. And yeah, that'll be it for this video. The first of hopefully 5 on the Afterlife. Goodbye.